Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for another pre-recorded live. I'm Kelley McKenzie, long arm specialist for Janome, and today I'm going to talk to you about the difference between reposition, nudge, and align, okay? So this is a very hard concept in the very beginning to understand, but once you grasp it, it is a super easy and a tool that you're going to use a lot, okay? So let's just talk before I show you anything on the screen. When you're using the reposition feature, you are telling the design to reposition according to where your crosshair is at or your needle. Remember, your crosshair and needle are the same thing, okay? So again, when you're using reposition, you're repositioning the design according to where you are putting your needle or your crosshair at, okay? Now, when you're using align, it has nothing to do with your needle at all. Align is just aligning your design with your area, okay? So if I want to center a design in a block that I've already formed the area for, then I don't even have to move my needle anywhere. I just go to align and center, and it pops my design in the center of the area that I have created, okay? Now, nudge has nothing to do with your needle or your area. It only is about your design. So a great time when you use nudge is, let's say your thread broke and you've got to go back and put a new start point and start your machine back so that you can continue that pattern. Now, a lot of times when we're quilting, because most of our patterns are somewhat dense, we are going to have the problem of when we go and put our needle where we want it to start, it actually starts a millimeter off or below or above or to the left or to the right. So what we do is we can zoom in on our screen, put our needle in the down position exactly where we want it to line up so that we have a reference point, and then we can nudge that design and watch the design move until we've got it exactly where we want it to be, and then we can do that new start, new end, and resume our quilting, and it will be perfectly lined up. Okay, so now I'm going to show you these things on my quilt. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use the nudge feature, okay? Again, I told you nudge has nothing to do with where your needle is at or your area. It's only about where your design is at. However, I'm going to use my needle as a tool to help me get my design perfect, okay? So my thread broke while I was doing this design. Are you going to take it off there? So my thread broke while I was doing this design, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to use this point as a lining up place to actually put a new start at, because anytime you need to add a new start point, it's best to try to do it on a point in your design and not on a curve, okay? So what I'm going to do to help me is I'm going to come and put my needle in the down position exactly on that point, okay? Then I'm going to look up at my screen and I'm going to go, ooh, according to where my needle is at, and I know my needle's on the point of that design on my quilt, but it's not on my screen. So I'm gonna come over here, you go to modify, reposition, and then you come over here to the nudge. And watch what happens to this as I hit the down button on the nudge. Watch what happens to my design. My crosshair will not move, only my design, and I can keep nudging it until I've got it perfectly lined up with that crosshair. And once I've done that, I can then go and create that new start point right there, and it's going to line up perfectly on my design, okay? So that is how you can critique your points and use the nudge feature, okay? Now, if we were going to put a design in the center of this block right here, okay? The first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create an area real quickly. So I'm going to go to the area tab, and I'm going to use multi-point because this is not a perfectly square square. And I'm going to create me a multi-point area real quickly. I'm going to refresh my screen so I can see it. So there's my block. And what I'm going to do now is just go pull up a block design. Okay, so here's my block design. And I want to tell it to center that design in this block. okay? And it's going to do it according to where my area is at, not where my needle's at. So if I go to modify and I go to align and I come over here to the side and I select center, it's going to take that design and put it in the dead center of that block. Now, of course, this design is too big for this block, so I would have to go and resize it and then align it, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to just come up here real quick and resize it. My proportions are locked, and I'm just going to make it smaller. And I'm going to move my design over. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to move my design so where it's not in the center of that block anymore, okay? I know my design's small enough now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to align and center, and it pops it in the center of that block, okay? So that's one quick, easy way to use Align. Let me show you another, because I use Align a lot now. I love it. It just is a big function. So let's just say I am setting up an edge to edge. So I'm gonna real quickly set up a 2-corner area. And since my quilt's, oops, I didn't do that right. Hold on. I don't know what just happened there. There we go. I don't know what I did wrong. Somebody might have watched me and knows. Okay, because this is not as big as I want to set it up, I'm going to real quickly change my width to 46 because this is for teaching purposes. And I'm going to set my width to 60 so that I can see my entire baby quilt on my screen, okay? And I'm going to go pick a design that I actually have used recently to show you what happens with this design, okay? So let me go find it. It's actually one I purchased, so I should have already had this pulled up, but I don't. So hold on, I'm gonna go right here. Okay. Of course, I don't see it. It's Sue Stars. And I don't see it on here. So let me go to this one real quick. I'm so sorry, guys. Give me just a second. Okay, since I don't see this design that I used earlier, I used it on my Quilt Maker Pro 18, so it must not be one that I accidentally didn't transfer. So let me find a design that will do the same thing as that one will. Give me just a second to find one. Okay, this one will work. I'm gonna real quickly just set up some repeats of this and make it look like it really would look if we were, if we were doing a quilt. Closing in that gap real quick. Gonna add some more repeats. Okay. So, you'll see how if I were to, typically when I set up an edge to edge, I'll go to a line and I'll set it up horizontally and vertically so that I have clean edges on the left and the left side of my frame and up at the top of my quilt, okay? But I can't do that with this design because there's too many holes here and the start point would actually be inside my quilt, okay? But that's typically how I would use a line on an edge to edge that doesn't have empty spaces on it. In this particular case, I can't do that. So what I would do is center my design in my area, make sure all of my edges are covered and it looks really good, and then I would crop my edges. So I'm gonna baseline this and then go to crop, and I'm gonna select outside and edges, and now it looks really good. There's no blank spots on any sides of my quilt, okay? My other example was a little bit better than that, but it is what it is. Okay, so that is some of the examples you can use Align for. Now, when we are talking about using Reposition, let me go to Reposition real quick. Let me pull in a design. Let's do Sorry, it's taking it just a second. PS Designs, blocks. Let's just do bless this house. Okay. So if we were wanting to take bless this house and there was a certain point on our quilt that we wanted to make sure it lined up on, let's say we were going to do the best we could to get it in this area, bless this house. And here's the edge of that area right here, but I don't have an area set. This is when you would use reposition. So I could go up to modify and select reposition, and I could say, okay, I want you to take my design and I want you to reposition it to where the bottom left part of this design will be where my crosshair is at. So I would select bottom left over here, and what it does is it bounces your design to the bottom left corner of my crosshair where my needle is at, okay? And then, you know, of course I could look on here and go, yes, I'm happy with how tall it goes. I like that. It's exactly where I want it to be, okay? So let's just look at this a little bit more to help you understand. So I'm going to move my crosshair right here to the center of my screen. So if we were to hit the top left, what it's going to do is it's going to take our design and it's going to move it to where the top left part of the design is at the crosshair, okay? And there's no design right here, but it's going from this outer edge of this star and the upmost part of our design, okay? That's how it decides. Let's say that you wanted it to actually start at the start point where your needle is at, okay? If that was the case, we would want that start point to come to where our needle is at. We would come over here and we would select start point, okay? So these are all the different ways of moving your design using reposition. The one thing that I do want to talk to you about is this button that I was like, what is this for? It's this home 0 button. This home 0 button really sometimes does you no good. The home 0 button is designated to be in a spot in the design that the digitizer has created as a 0 point. I don't know what a 0 point actually means. Sometimes it will be the start point of the design. Sometimes it will be the end point of the design. Sometimes it could be smack dab somewhere in the center of this design. So you never know, like on this one, whoever digitized this, they made the 0 point at the end of this design. I don't know the rhyme or reason for that, but that is explaining what this weird button over here is for that we really just never use, okay? So I hope that today I have given you some good enlightenment of how to use align, reposition, and nudge. I'm going to repeat myself one last time before we end this live. Remember that repositioning is repositioning your design to where your needle is at. Align is repositioning your design where your area is at. And nudge has nothing to do with either one of those things. Nudge just barely moves your design in any direction that you need it to, that the screen will allow, okay? So I hope this live helps you today. I'm sorry that it's not truly live and it's pre-recorded, but I just seem to like to do these pre-recordeds a little bit better. I will be on here to answer questions, so if you have any questions, just pop it in the comments and I will answer it as quickly as possible. Thank you for joining me today for another live, and we'll see you next time.